Hello, my topic is George W. Bush. Although George W. Bush responds to the result of Hurricane Katrina with sorrow, George W. Bush initiates a gradual relief package for the victims of Hurricane Katrina. My research of President Bush begins on the Tuesday of his week. During this time, 24 hours after the storm, George W. Bush is briefed about the storm's damage to cities along the Gulf Coast in Louisiana, especially in the town of New Orleans. When George W. Bush was first briefed about the storm, he was attending a Victory over Japan commemoration in California. Also at this time, 85% of New Orleans is underwater, which adds to the frustration of people who are living in New Orleans, wondering why George Bush doesn't make the relief package when he hears about the severe destruction of New Orleans. Well, I don't know, but after George Bush attends this World War II Remembrance Assembly, George W. Bush flies to Texas to vacation for a little less than a day. George W. Bush does not stay in Texas for long because he flies to Washington, D.C. on the Wednesday of this chaotic week, only 2 days after Hurricane Katrina passes through Louisiana. During his plane ride to Washington, D.C., George W. Bush views the flooded town of New Orleans. Here is a picture of George W. Bush looking at the remains of New Orleans from a plane in the sky. When George W. Bush gets to Washington, D.C., he probably discusses options for the long-delayed Katrina relief package. On the next day, a Thursday, 3 days after the giant storm, President George W. Bush appears on Good Morning America. No relief package yet. Anyway, on the show, George W. Bush mentions the effects of Hurricane Katrina on human society when he says, "I fully understand people wanting things to have happened yesterday, as if nothing can be done right now. I understand the anxiety of people on the ground, so there is frustration, but I want people to know that there's a lot of help coming." On the next day, a Friday, 4 really long days for someone in New Orleans, President George W. Bush signs the $10.5 billion relief package. Finally, after waiting 4 days, the victims of Katrina have a government relief package which includes 7,200 active duty troops. So there it is. Although George W. Bush expressed his sorrow for the floods in Katrina, he does not make the relief package seem urgent or most pressing on his Katrina aftermath to-do list. Thanks, and have a good day. This was my presentation. The end. Adios.